Well, hello there. Thank you very much for making time to be with us. Today, I have the pleasure of hosting Advocate Pansy Tlakula, who is the chairperson and special rapporteur on the freedom of expression and access to information in Africa. Thank you very much, madam, for making time to be with us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, the question would be, what are some of the AU measures that have been taken to recognize the people's rights and as per the African Charter as well?
As you know, I am the chairperson of the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, which is the premier body for the protection and promotion of human rights on the continent. And the establishment of the Commission on its own is a major step that the then OAU took to ensure that there is a body that can protect and promote human rights on this continent. This organization is the oldest organ of the now African Union, because next year it will be 30 years old.
So, but what are some of the measures that you are taking to ensure that what you come up is really implemented across the African continent?
Well, what we do is that we visit countries on what we call promotion missions to promote human rights. And we also receive complaints of violations of human rights from various persons, individuals, non-governmental organizations, and we adjudicate those complaints. We come up with a decision and recommendation on how those violations of human rights can be addressed. The challenge that we have, which is a challenge that runs through all the human rights institutions throughout the world, is the effective implementation of the recommendations that we made. Because as you know, we are not a court of law. We are a quasi-judicial body that makes recommendation. But I think what we do is to really have to follow up, and which is what we do. Once we have made a recommendation to a country, we follow up with the country to ensure that they implement our recommendations. But it's an area of challenge.
Yeah, of course we do have reports like the Human Rights Report and other reports that show that there still is a major problem when it comes to African rights and people respecting it. But then do we have those that are African reports, that indexes that show this is where we stand as per today?
I think what we have to do, and there's this perception that human rights is like a project. When you embark on a project of building a road, you have milestones and you can say, yes, we have achieved all the milestones, and then you can tick done and write a close-out report. Human rights is not like that. It's always work in progress, because all of us around the world, we take 10 steps forward in improving human rights, and situations arise, and then because of those situations, we take a few steps backwards. So that's how it is. The trick is really not to give up. Giving up is not an option in the field of human rights. It's work that requires slogging, requires one not to give up, to engage continuously, and that's what we do as a commission. And yes, there have been improvements on our continent. We have to say that. If you look at where we were 20 years ago, look at where we are now, we have made remarkable improvement in a number of areas. Look at the number of countries that hold regular elections. It never used to be like that in the past. Multipartyism has taken root on our continent. We no longer have one-party states. In the area of rights of women as well, your country, Rwanda, is leading in the world. We are doing well. But of course, like everywhere else, we still have challenges. Challenges of inequality, challenges of poverty, challenges of freedom of expression. As the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression and Access to Information, I have to say that the issue of freedom of expression, the issue of media freedom remains one of the challenges that we are faced with on our continent, because most of our countries still have laws like criminal defamation, which criminalizes speech.
Yes.
And these laws, as you know, are not our laws. These are laws that we inherited from the people who colonized us. They left us with these laws, went back to where they came from. In their countries, some of them have repealed these laws, but we continue to use them. So these are some of the challenges that we have. But even in that area, there is light at the end of the tunnel, because the African Court on Human and People's Rights, which is the highest court on the continent on human rights, issued a judgment, and in 2014 December, against Burkina Faso, to say that criminal defamation is against the provisions of freedom of expression in the African Charter. And we are now using that judgment to advocate for the repeal of these laws where they still exist.
But don't you think maybe it's high time, because now we're talking about the Agenda 2063, but here we are still saying we have these organic laws that we still go by. Don't you think it's high time we change these laws to suit the Africa that we are in right now, the new Africa as we call it?
Of course, that is exactly what we have to be looking into, to say how do we move towards the Agenda 2063, the Africa that we want, that we aspire for in 2063. And all of us as organs of the AU should ensure that in the programs that we have, the projects that we embark on, we work towards that agenda. And that agenda from a human rights perspective means, as we have already indicated, the repeal of the laws that you are talking about, talks about the fact that once countries have ratified instruments, they have to implement them, they have to domesticate them. It talks about that once decisions have been taken by organs such as the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, there has to be commitment to implement
but then
decisions.
Africa, has a lot of conflicts, where we can look even on neighboring Burundi just recently, and now we're talking about, South Sudan. There recently, the killings and everything, but then this all sums up to human rights. There are people who still do not respect human rights. What are the sanctions? Are there sanctions, if any rather, from your organization that you say you have done this is enough? Time for you to stop this? Are there sanctions that you put in place?
I think what we need to contextualize is to say there are 54 countries on the continent.
Yes.
And we have to count the number of countries where there are conflicts and not make a generalization to say Africa is on fire, because Africa is not on fire. We do have pockets of instability, pockets of conflict, which we have to eradicate.
Yes.
And the sanctions that we are talking about are sanctions that have to be taken by the African Union as a political body, because there is an instrument that the African Union has adopted, that some of the countries have ratified, which is the Charter on Democracy, Elections and Governance. And that charter says that you cannot have unconstitutional changes of government. And once there is an unconstitutional change of government in a particular country, that country will then be suspended from the AU. So the sanctions are there. The court is there.
Yeah.
So all of us as organs, we have to ensure that we execute our mandate to the best of our ability, and the state parties have to ensure that they implement our recommendations.
Agenda 2063 is calling for equality. Do you feel as a woman in your own position, we will reach a point where equality is there for all in Africa?
The chairperson of the AUC, Dr. Nkosazana Zuma, 2 days ago at the high-level dialogue on women, said that if we move at the pace that we are moving towards gender equality, will take 81 years to reach total equality, and we cannot wait for 81 years. So we really have to accelerate our pace. But for me, my passion lies in the empowerment of young people, because that is the future of the continent. The continent is made up of more young people, young women, than young men. So we have to put a lot of effort in empowering young women. And fortunately, you are coming at a point where there are enormous opportunities in many of our countries and on the continent. And I think that's where we need to put our focus. The pace is slow. There are areas where there is improvement, political participation, yes, but there are other fields. I mean, today it's International Day of Aviation, as you are aware. How many women are in that space? How many women pilots do we have? So there are, you know, areas where we really have to put a special focus. The area of freedom of expression, female, women journalists, their voices, their struggles. You know, we have looked at a whole number of areas of human rights, women in peace building, women in politics, you know, women in business, and you can name it. But I am lacking a special focus on women in journalism, because the struggles that women face there, their achievements and so on, are quite peculiar. And as the Special Rapporteur on Freedom of Expression and Access to Information in Africa, this is one area that I would like to focus.
So do you feel the theme is timely? Or is it because we could be facing the pockets of instability, that's why we're talking about human rights right now? Is it timely really?
It is timely. I think it is timely, but it has to be, you know, it has to be a theme at all times. Because if we focus on the year, we're just accelerating. But we have to ensure that we focus on the rights of women, you know, 365 days a year.
Are we coming to a point where you as the African Union will actually stand out and call out on some of these governments that are not doing right? Because I remember in 2011, a case on Libya was brought, you know, to the African court, and it was really impressive. But since then, we haven't had any other voice coming up and saying, this country is doing this, could we step in there? Do you feel we are reaching a point where you will stand up and voice and say, we as the African Union say enough is enough?
Well, we do that. I've just presented the report of the Commission inside the meeting of the Peace and Security Council. And we are very frank as the Commission on our achievements as a continent and on areas of concern. Because as the Commission, we have to talk about positive developments in the areas of human rights, but we also equally have to talk about areas of concern. Because if we don't do that, we'll not be true to the oath of office that we have taken of performing our functions impartially and doing so without fear, favor or prejudice.
That's true. So as we come to the end of our interview, you know, what are some of the things or the strategies that you have to popularize, you know, the human rights and the people's courts and things like that, that actually people should know about in Africa? Because most people say we have the organs, but we know nothing about it, yet they're in Africa.
I think the media plays a very important role, and I am glad that we are having this discussion, because you find that in most of our countries, people don't know about these organs. We do visit countries on promotion missions, and we try, when we're there, to interact with the population, but including the media. But I think, as the Commission, where we have, you know, the area where we have to improve is our communication strategy, because we do a lot of work, but we don't publicize the work that we do. So we need to improve in
Of course, as a woman who is up there on the top, one of the top, you know, top jobs in the AU, what's your word to women watching right now who feel they do not have enough power, or they still don't have that voice to voice themselves?
You know, women are very powerful. We always have a voice. There is this, you know, misperception, or a perception, let me say, that you have to occupy a particular position to have power. If you look at, I was brought up by my grandmother, I always want to make that example, who had not gone to school at all, but who was a matriarch of note, because he commanded such authority that my parents had no say in the way that she wanted to mold us and to bring us up. So I'm saying to women of our continent that we are born with innate power as women, and wherever we are, we just have to ensure that we hold our heads high and we excel in everything that we do, because that is us.
Well, thank you very much for making time to be with us.
Thank you very much.